You need to do this if you want to thrive in the face of uncertainty and build real success. Imagine facing life's toughest challenges, whether it's a career shift, a personal goal, or a new project, and feeling completely confident in your ability to overcome them. Sounds incredible, right? But here's the truth. Confidence isn't something you're born with. It's something you build through practical action, learning from your failures and adapting along the way. Avoid this mistake if you want to truly succeed, thinking that confidence comes from always having the right answers or perfect conditions. It doesn't. Instead, true confidence comes from the willingness to act, to learn from each experience, and to keep moving forward, even when the road ahead isn't clear. In today's video, we'll dive into the power of pragmatism, how practical thinking, purpose-driven action, and a flexible mindset can not only help you overcome doubt and adversity, but also build the strength and confidence you need to turn your ideas into wins. Let's explore how practical confidence prevails when you embrace the core principles of pragmatism. Number 1. Practical thinking wins every time. Think back to a moment when everything seemed perfect. A day when you had all your plans in place and the excitement of success was almost tangible. You could see the finish line clearly and you were on your way. But then something unexpected came up. An obstacle, a challenge, or simply the realization that the path you had been so sure about wasn't the best one after all. It's frustrating, right? That feeling of helplessness can creep in, especially when you've invested so much time and energy into something that didn't work out the way you thought it would. But here's where the beauty of practical thinking comes in. The world doesn't wait for you to feel ready or to have everything figured out. The key to moving forward, sometimes faster than you expected, is the ability to adjust and think practically. It's about taking a step back from the grand visions and asking, what works right now? The future may be uncertain, but practical thinking gives you the clarity to act in the present, making the most of what's available. For instance, think of a time when you were at a crossroads in your life, whether it was a career decision or a personal challenge. You may have had ideas, dreams, or aspirations, but at the end of the day, it was practical thinking, knowing what was feasible at that moment, that made the difference. When things don't go as planned, it's easy to feel defeated, but practical thinking doesn't waste time on what could have been. It focuses on what can be done right now to create progress. The ability to think practically, looking at the resources you have, the time you've got, and the best possible outcome, is the kind of mindset that keeps you moving forward. Sure, dreams are important, but practicality is what turns them into reality. It's the hidden secret behind success, the quiet force that wins time and time again. And when you learn to embrace it, you'll see how practical thinking can lead you to real solutions, even in the most unexpected of situations. Number 2. Adapt and overcome with pragmatism. Remember those days in your life when things were simpler? When you had a routine and you could plan ahead without the weight of uncertainties looming over you? It felt like you had control. It was easier to predict outcomes, and it seemed like the world followed a clear, understandable pattern. But as we all know, life isn't always that predictable. Change happens when you least expect it, and suddenly, the familiar becomes unfamiliar, leaving you to navigate through uncertainty. When you face change, whether it's a new job, a shift in personal circumstances, or a sudden challenge, your first instinct might be to resist it. We all do. It's natural to want to hold on to what's familiar, to cling to the past or the things that feel comfortable. But resisting change often leads to frustration. That's when pragmatism shows its true power. It teaches you not just to accept change, but to adapt to it. Pragmatism isn't about denying the difficulty of change or pretending that life's challenges are easy to handle. It's about facing those challenges head-on with a mindset that asks, what can I do to make this work? It's about letting go of the idealized version of the situation and instead focusing on what is right in front of you. By adapting and overcoming, you turn obstacles into opportunities. This is the essence of pragmatism, finding solutions no matter how difficult the situation may seem. Think back to a time when you had to change your approach or strategy. Maybe you started a new project only to realize halfway through that your initial plan wasn't going to work. It's frustrating, right? But it's also part of the process. The ability to adapt, to change course when necessary, and adjust your actions based on the new reality is one of the most powerful skills you can develop. It's not about sticking to the plan for the sake of it. It's about making the plan work for you. Pragmatism asks us to recognize that change is inevitable, and in doing so, it empowers us to become more resilient, more flexible. When we stop fighting the inevitable and instead embrace the challenge of adapting to new circumstances, we gain the strength to overcome almost anything that comes our way. In fact, adaptability is often the key to turning what might seem like setbacks into stepping stones towards something better. Number 3, focus on what works. We've all been there, caught up in the whirlwind of trying new things, hoping to find the perfect solution to a problem. You've probably spent countless hours researching, experimenting, or discussing ideas with others, all in the hope of finding that one breakthrough moment. But then, after all the effort, you realize that only a small fraction of what you tried actually worked. It's a disappointing feeling, right? You invested time, resources, and energy, and in the end, not everything panned out as you'd hoped. However, what if I told you that this is exactly where you need to be? That moment of realization that some things simply don't work is the key to focusing on what truly does. In a world filled with distractions, it's easy to get caught up in the excitement of new possibilities, but the real power lies in honing in on the things that bring results. Pragmatism teaches us that success doesn't come from doing everything. It comes from focusing on what actually works. Think of it like this. In a field full of weeds, it's easy to get overwhelmed by everything that's growing around you. But if you take the time to examine which plants are thriving and which ones are just taking up space, you can focus your energy on nurturing the ones that matter most. Similarly, in life, we often have too many things on our plate, too many opportunities, too many distractions. But the real power comes from recognizing what works and doubling down on it. It's like building a muscle. You can spend hours at the gym trying every new workout or piece of equipment. But the real progress comes when you identify what exercises give you the best results and focus on them. You don't need to try everything, you just need to focus on what works for you, what's practical, and what brings tangible results. This concept isn't just about efficiency, it's about effectiveness. Focusing on what works means recognizing patterns and building on them. It's not about doing more, it's about doing what brings the most value, the most return on investment. Whether it's in your career, your relationships, or your personal growth, focusing on what works helps you avoid burnout and frustration. By channeling your efforts into the areas that make the biggest impact, you not only save time, but also achieve greater success. As you reflect on your own life, think about the moments when you made real progress. What were you doing during those times? Were you following a detailed plan, or were you just focusing on the few things that truly made a difference? When you focus on what works, you start to notice that the small, practical changes you make lead to big, lasting results. It's the power of pragmatism, the art of doing less, but doing it well. And in this simple, yet profound approach, you'll find a path to success that's not just efficient, but truly effective. Number 4, action over doubt. You've probably had moments where doubt crept into your mind, right? That nagging voice in the back of your head questioning your choices, your abilities, or even your future. Maybe you've been in a situation where you felt stuck, paralyzed by fear of failure or uncertainty about the outcome. It's a familiar feeling, one that many of us face when trying to make decisions or take that next step forward. In these moments, it's easy to become consumed by what could go wrong, and this uncertainty can hold us back. But what if I told you that the most powerful antidote to doubt isn't more planning, more research, or more reassurance? It's action. Action, regardless of how small or imperfect it may seem, has the power to dissolve doubt. Pragmatism teaches us that the only way to know if something will work is to try it. Sitting in a state of indecision, overwhelmed by doubts, does nothing but keep us stuck in place. In contrast, action forces us to confront reality, on the ground, in the moment, without the luxury of second-guessing. Think about a time when you hesitated to act, when doubt prevented you from moving forward. Perhaps it was a career opportunity, a big decision in your personal life, or a project that you put on hold. What happened when you finally took action? Even if the outcome wasn't perfect, didn't you feel a sense of progress? The key here is understanding that action doesn't require perfection. It simply requires forward motion. When we act, we learn, we adapt, and we evolve. Doubt often comes from the unknown, from the fear of what might happen if things don't go according to plan. But the truth is, no amount of worry or analysis will ever guarantee a flawless outcome. Pragmatism encourages us to accept that things won't always go as expected, and that's okay. The important thing is to take action anyway, because with each step we take, we gain knowledge, experience, and clarity. We make progress, even if it's not in the way we envisioned. And eventually, that forward momentum builds confidence. Remember, there will always be doubts and fears that accompany any new venture. But the difference between success and stagnation often lies in our ability to act despite them. Pragmatism teaches us that we don't need to have everything figured out before we begin. We only need to take the first step. From there, the path will unfold, and with every action, we move closer to our goal. When doubt arises, let it fuel your determination to act. The more you do, the less power doubt will have over you. Number 5. Purpose powers resilience. There's a quiet strength that comes from knowing why you're doing something. Think back to a time when you were faced with a challenge, maybe a difficult project at work, a personal setback, or a goal that seemed almost unreachable. It's easy to feel defeated in those moments, especially when obstacles seem to pile up. But when you have a clear sense of purpose, something deeper than just the immediate task at hand, it becomes easier to push through. Purpose gives you the energy to keep going, even when everything feels impossible. We've all heard the phrase, "What's your why?" A question that seems simple, but its impact is profound. When you know your purpose, it acts as a guiding light, providing clarity and strength during the toughest times. Purpose isn't just about motivation or passion. It's about grounding yourself in something meaningful that makes the struggles worth it. It's the fuel that keeps your resilience burning, no matter how hard the road gets. Pragmatism teaches us that resilience is not an inherent trait, but a skill that's developed over time. And the foundation of that skill is a strong sense of purpose. Think about those moments when you were at your lowest, feeling like giving up was the only option. Now, consider what kept you going. Was it your purpose? The deeper reason why you were putting in the effort, despite the pain or frustration. Purpose connects you to something greater than yourself. It transforms the challenge from a burden into a mission. It's the difference between pushing through because you have to and pushing through because you truly believe in the outcome. Purpose isn't just about external goals. It's deeply personal. It's the why behind your decisions, the values that guide your actions, and the vision that shapes your future. When life tests your resilience, it's purpose that helps you dig deeper, to keep fighting when everything else feels overwhelming. Without purpose, it's easy to get lost or distracted, but with it, you can find the strength to overcome adversity. Pragmatism understands that resilience doesn't come from sheer willpower alone. It's not about stubbornly pushing through obstacles without a reason. Resilience comes from having a clear purpose that makes the struggle worth it. When you know why you're doing something, even the toughest challenges seem less daunting. Purpose is what gives you the energy to keep moving forward when everything around you suggests you should stop. Number 6. Experiment to succeed. We often hear about success stories that seem to happen overnight, don't we? It's easy to look at someone who has achieved great things and think they must have had it all figured out. But the truth is, behind every success story, there were countless experiments, failures, and adjustments made along the way. Success rarely comes from following a straight path. More often than not, it's the result of testing, learning, and adapting over time. Pragmatism embraces this concept, recognizing that experimentation is essential to finding what works. Think about a time when you tried something new, maybe a new job, a new hobby, or a different approach to a problem. At first, it might have felt uncomfortable or even like a failure, but each time you tried, you learned something valuable. You tweaked your approach, changed your method, and tried again. With every experiment, you moved closer to success. This is the essence of pragmatism, the willingness to test ideas, to fail, and to learn from those failures. Success doesn't always come on the first attempt. It rarely does. But with each experiment, we gain knowledge and refine our strategies. The more we try, the more we learn about ourselves, our strengths, and the areas that need improvement. It's not about reaching perfection immediately. It's about making progress through trial and error. Pragmatism teaches us that the key to success lies in embracing the process of experimentation, knowing that each step, whether it's a success or a failure, brings us closer to our ultimate goal. It's easy to become disheartened by failure, but in reality, failure is an essential part of the journey. Every failed experiment is just another step toward finding the solution that works. Pragmatism doesn't shy away from failure. It encourages us to experiment, to fail, and to try again with even more insight than before. The willingness to experiment is what separates those who succeed from those who don't. Because in experimentation, there is always learning, growth, and progress. Number 7. Flexible minds conquer adversity. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where nothing was going as planned? Maybe it was a career change that didn't go as expected, a relationship that faltered, or an ambitious project that hit roadblock after roadblock. You probably felt frustration building up, perhaps even a sense of helplessness. It's easy to feel overwhelmed when things don't unfold the way you imagined. The tension between expectation and reality can be tough to bridge. But here's the thing. The people who weather the storms of life are not necessarily the ones who stick rigidly to their plans, but those who are willing to adapt. In times of adversity, it's not always the strongest who survive. It's the most adaptable. Pragmatism teaches us that the key to overcoming challenges lies in our ability to be flexible. When you hold too tightly to one way of doing things, you limit your options. But when you allow yourself to bend and adjust, new possibilities arise. Flexibility doesn't mean giving up on your goals. It means finding new ways to reach them when the old path becomes blocked. Think back to a time when you had to pivot, whether in your personal life or career. Perhaps you had a solid plan, but the circumstances changed in a way you didn't foresee. Did you stick to the plan even though it was no longer working, or did you adapt? The most successful people don't necessarily have a one-track mind. They approach problems with an open mind, prepared to change direction if needed. This flexibility, this ability to adjust and rethink strategies, is what allows them to conquer adversity. The world is full of uncertainty. No matter how much we plan, things rarely go exactly as expected. But having a flexible mind means that when one door closes, another one opens. You don't need to stick rigidly to the old blueprint when the landscape has shifted. Instead, pragmatism allows you to evaluate the situation, learn from it, and find the best solution moving forward. Flexibility is not about abandoning your goals, but about discovering new routes to achieve them. It's a mindset that encourages growth, innovation, and, ultimately, resilience. It's the ability to bend without breaking. Number 8. Turn ideas into wins. Have you ever had a brilliant idea, one that made you think, "This is it, this is going to change everything"? It's an exhilarating feeling, isn't it? But then reality hits. You start to think about the obstacles, the resources you lack, the time constraints, and that brilliant idea, once full of promise, begins to feel like just another unfulfilled thought. Many people stop there. They get discouraged, believing their ideas are too big or too complicated to bring to life. But here's the secret. The difference between a good idea and a successful idea is action. Pragmatism teaches us that the best ideas aren't the ones that remain in our minds, but the ones we turn into action. Turning an idea into a win doesn't require perfection. It requires determination, practicality, and the willingness to take small, focused steps. It's not about having a flawless plan or waiting for the perfect moment. It's about moving forward with what you have, using your current resources, and making incremental progress until your idea becomes reality. Think of a time when you took a small step toward a big goal, maybe a passion project or a career move. At first, it might have felt intimidating, even insignificant. But the more you acted on it, the clearer the path became. Each small win built on the last until you finally saw the bigger picture unfold. Turning ideas into wins isn't about making giant leaps. It's about making consistent, purposeful steps toward your goal. Every action, no matter how small, brings you closer to turning your vision into a reality. The difference between ideas that fizzle out and those that succeed is the willingness to do something with them. It's about transforming potential into results. Pragmatism emphasizes that success isn't just about having ideas. It's about having the courage to put those ideas into action, to take the risks, and to experiment along the way. By focusing on what works, adjusting when necessary, and staying committed to the process, you can turn your ideas into wins. It's a mindset of persistence and practical effort, where every step forward is a step closer to realizing your vision. Number 9. Pragmatism builds strength. Think about the moments in your life when you were pushed to your limits, when everything seemed like it was too much to handle. Perhaps it was an overwhelming workload, a personal crisis, or a challenge that seemed insurmountable. In those moments, it's easy to feel defeated. You might have questioned whether you were strong enough to push through. But strength, as we often forget, isn't built in easy moments. It's forged in adversity, in the very challenges that seem impossible to overcome. Pragmatism teaches us that strength is not something we are born with, but something we develop over time. It's the result of continuously facing obstacles and learning how to adapt, how to act, and how to move forward despite difficulties. True strength comes from a practical, grounded approach to life's challenges. It's the resilience that grows from learning how to take what life throws at you, assess it, and use it as a stepping stone to something better. Reflect on a time when you had to dig deep to keep going. It probably wasn't easy, but it was that experience that helped shape you into the person you are today. You learned to adapt. You learned to act despite fear or doubt. You learned that strength doesn't come from avoiding difficulties, but from facing them head-on. It's through the tough times that we build character, and it's through practical problem-solving that we develop resilience. Pragmatism isn't about avoiding pain or difficulty. It's about embracing the reality that challenges are part of life, and using those challenges as opportunities to grow stronger. The more you face adversity, the more resilient and adaptable you become. With each difficulty, you build the strength needed to tackle the next. This is the true power of pragmatism. It turns every obstacle into a chance to grow. It's not just about surviving, it's about learning, adapting, and becoming stronger each time. Number 10. Practical confidence prevails. Have you ever watched someone confidently walk into a room and felt the energy shift? There's a certain aura of certainty around them, as if they know exactly what they're doing and nothing can stop them. It's easy to believe that this type of confidence comes naturally, reserved only for the fortunate few. But here's the truth. Practical confidence is not about being born with it. It's built over time through real experiences, by making decisions, facing challenges, and learning along the way. Think back to a time when you felt unsure of yourself. Maybe you were about to take on a new responsibility or dive into something completely unfamiliar. How did you feel? A little anxious, perhaps. Most people feel some level of doubt when stepping into the unknown. But in those moments, confidence isn't about being free from doubt. It's about trusting that you can navigate whatever comes your way. It's this practical confidence, the kind that grows from experience and action, that allows you to push through, even when things feel uncertain. Pragmatism teaches us that confidence doesn't come from knowing everything or having everything figured out ahead of time. It comes from doing, from engaging with the world and learning as you go. The more you act, the more you adapt, and the more you experiment, the more you build a reservoir of confidence that's grounded in reality. This type of confidence isn't fragile or dependent on external validation. It's solid and practical because it's based on what you've learned and what you've accomplished. Think about a time when you faced a situation that felt daunting at first. Maybe it was a presentation, a big decision, or a personal challenge that required you to step outside your comfort zone. At first, the uncertainty might have been overwhelming, but the more you engaged, the more you took action, the clearer the path became. With each small step, your confidence grew, not because you were certain of the outcome, but because you knew you could handle what came next. That's practical confidence. It's important to realize that practical confidence doesn't rely on perfection. It's not about always having the right answers or never making mistakes. Instead, it's about being comfortable with the unknown and trusting your ability to figure things out as you go. Life is full of unexpected twists, and success rarely follows a linear path. But with practical confidence, you trust yourself enough to take that next step, even when you're unsure of where it will lead. Pragmatism understands that confidence is built on action, not theory. It's through practical experience, solving problems, experimenting, adjusting, and learning, that true confidence emerges. This kind of confidence isn't something you either have or don't have. It's something you develop through consistent effort and real-world engagement. The more you act, the more you realize that you have the ability to handle challenges, and with each step forward, your confidence continues to grow. Practical confidence is the quiet certainty that no matter what comes your way, you'll find a way to navigate it. It's grounded in your ability to take action and learn from each experience. And the best part, the more you use it, the stronger it becomes. With every challenge you face and overcome, practical confidence becomes a more reliable part of who you are. It's not about pretending to know it all, it's about knowing that you have the tools, the resilience, and the ability to keep moving forward, one step at a time. If you've made it this far, drop a thumbs up. It shows you're part of the 0.01% who are truly committed to taking action and finishing what they start. Pragmatism isn't just a philosophy, it's a practical guide to success in the real world. By applying these principles, you'll be better equipped to navigate life's challenges, adapt to change, and build lasting confidence. If you're serious about changing your life and want to continue your journey of growth and success, make sure to join our community by subscribing to the channel. By staying connected, you'll keep unlocking new ways to turn your ideas into wins and build the strength to conquer any obstacle that comes your way. Keep moving forward. Your best self is waiting.